We used to share a rehearsal room with an all-girl band where they were all the rage then. There was that Riot Girl thing going on. I mean, it's appalling. Girls in bands. And they had a gig up in Glasgow and they asked us to go and play with them. So we did. And Alan McGee, one of the girls who was in the all-girl band, was one of his ex-girlfriends. I think he went along to say hello. And there we were. And he walked in and actually, the legend has it, he shouted "ka-ching" at the top of his voice when he heard Live Forever. I used to go and see them. And then I was at Stone Roses gig and there was a guy stood beside me on the balcony and he had a Walkman and he was taping the gig. And I asked him if I give him my address, would he send me a copy of the tape? And then we kind of got chatting and realised that he was in the Inspiral Carpets. And kind of got friendly with him from there, and then they kicked their lead singer out and asked me to audition for their lead singer's job. And I didn't get it because I was too cool, and I ended up setting the guitars up and the drums and that. I was in Munich with the Inspiral Carpets and I phoned my mum. And she said that Liam had joined a band. And I said, doing what? And she said, singing. And I laughed. I still am. It was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. And so when I got back off one of the tours, I don't know, they asked me to be their manager. So I declined. And then they begged me, all of them, all four of them got down on their knees and begged me to join their band and write songs. And I said, no, go on then. The whole thing about Oasis has taken me by surprise. You know, I knew we were a pretty good band, but if somebody would have said to me, you know, however many years ago it is, we'd have done what we've done and still be around to tell the tale. You know, I would kind of accepted it, but it's not something that you can. It still amazes me. Do you know what I mean? I think we've ascended to a place now where kind of U2 are. You know, when people say, if someone was to say to you, what kind of music do U2 make? It's kind of unanswerable. They don't make any kind of music. They make U2 music. And I think we've got to a place now where you can't pigeonhole Oasis, because for every term that you give it, like, well, it's rock and roll. And you think, oh, well, is Songbird rock and roll? And you say, oh, well, they write these big ballads. And you think, well, is the meaning of soul a ballad? As some might say, but I don't think so. So we've managed to carve out our own place in music, which is that we make Oasis music. It doesn't get any better than that, I don't think. The one thing we never do is sit down and put our album on a couch and psychoanalyse it, because it'll take the magic out of it. It's just great because it is, and thank the Lord that it is, because the next one might be shit. And you know, the next time we go to make a record and we put it out and people say it's shit, we won't know why it's shit. And I don't know why this one's great, but it is. I'll be quite frank, the band have never had it. You know, I was the first person to realise how good it was. You know, I'm still not sure Liam ever does, do you know what I mean? Liam lives kind of in his own little bubble, but songwriting, as he'll tell you, it's kind of like a sport. The more you practice at it, the better that you get. You know, if you don't write a song for about a year or something, it's very, very difficult to pick that up. You know, if you're constantly writing, you know, you'll find that you'll write more often than not more good stuff than bad stuff. So after about a year or two, I was practiced at writing songs and they just started to get better. We were talking about this the other night, because it's got its staunch supporters within our camp. And I think the official line now is that if you could go back and listen to it on the day that it came out, it would still sound great, but it just didn't stand the test of time. And it's all right people saying, oh, but you know, oh, the songs are great and all that, but at the end, we don't play them songs live since that tour, never have done. And I don't hear anybody shouting in the crowd for all around the world, you know. So it wasn't a disaster, you know. It was just a kind of it was a mad time, you know. And the clue to that title is in the album, you know. It was all about then. That was the one where I felt the pressure more than anything, because I had to sit down for the first time in. When did that come out? 98? No, 99. I sit down for the first time in 5 years with no songs and create something. And I got a bit bogged down in trying to reinvent something that didn't need reinventing. But all the lyrics to that album are amazing. And I think that there's some real proper pieces of music on that, like Fucking in the Bushes and Gas Panic and Go Let It Out.
Roll It Over?
Yeah, there's some Where Did It All Go Wrong and Little James. But it was kind of, you know, we were all coming out of the party, and it was like recording an album with a serious hangover. Musically, Morning Glory, groundbreaking, I don't know, but it set that. I don't like to use this word because it's an American, no offense to you, but it raised the bar. It made everybody else better. It made Radiohead better. It made U2 better. It made The Verve better. It inspired the likes of Coldplay. You know, all of a sudden, you know, it wasn't acceptable not to sell millions of records. You know what I mean? We kind of blew the door open, really. And but I don't know about groundbreaking. Maybe in terms of record sales. I've never understood the pretensions of rock stars that when they claim to be in the studio, oh, we knew we were making an important record. Because that, how can you predict that all those people are going to go and buy it? You can't. I mean, if it was that easy, I'd live in an house like this. But you can't listen to someone and say that's really important, it's going to be massive, because that's crazy talk. We knew, even from the outset, there was people within our little circle, whatever you call it, who were saying it were kind of making noises that it wasn't as good as the first one. Even then, you know, but we just knew it was something different. You know, Champagne Supernova and Don't Look Back in Anger, and some might say Morning Glory, they're all great songs, you know, we still play them to this day, which is probably the greatest compliment I can play them. I kind of go on stage most nights and I'll be halfway through Don't Look Back in Anger and think, what the fuck does it mean? I mean, really, what does it, you know, who is she and where's she going? And why should she not? Do you know what I mean? It freaks me out. Is it possible to walk slowly down a hall faster than a cannonball?
I'd been in a couple of bands and got tired of it all. And I got this call, and if there was one band that I would have, you know, made a big life-changing decision for, it would definitely be Oasis, you know, hardly anyone else. Well, no one else. It flew over, played with them for a few days, and it seemed to work, and then I was asked to join. Gen was already in. He'd been like cherry-picked, hadn't he? Mm.
Well, he was the first person we asked because he wasn't doing anything, and we knew him. And his band, Heavy Stereo, was quite similar to ours. It was a very easy decision for all of us to make, I think. People always ask this about me, about sharing the songwriting. Like I'm some crazy old fucking Scrooge who lives in a tower, you know, and it's all mine. This is a band where it's about time these fuckers got their finger out. It's not about me sharing the songwriting, it's everybody else contributing. So it's not me giving anything away, it's them joining in. You know, I've always wanted to be part of a band in its truest, in the true meaning of the word. I used to have to write 30 songs for an album, right, and pick the best 16 for all the B-sides. I wrote 30 songs last year, we've used 5. I don't have to work until 2012 for the Olympics start. I'm serious. Get on that. Bet you'd love being in that position, wouldn't you? I would not do not a stroke. I can unequivocally tell you that the word panic never comes into my vocabulary at all.
It was more like...
It was 3 years of leisure.
It was more like, this is not really working, is it? No. Well, should we take a month off and then talk about it in a month? And then...
Seriously. But we started off with a bunch of songs that we thought were great. It quickly dawned on us that while we were doing them, they weren't that great. Yeah. Now, my whole thing is, it's not working, you know, and there's no point in trying to throw any more shit against the wall there, nothing's sticking. I'm going on holiday. I invite you all to do the same. So it'd be like a month pass and then we'd reconvene. We were written off after signing the Shoulder Giants, written off as a nostalgia act that would travel the world playing stadiums with absolutely nothing new to offer anybody. We had to make a record Not for anybody else other than our fans, you know, because we'd lost them. Not live, we could still sell out Wembley Stadium, but we had to make a record that inspired the people that got into us in the first place. And we did. And we also had to, it was the first record we'd made together, and we also had to learn. It wasn't scary. I wasn't going into the studio scared, but it's like, it's a different thing being on stage and going, these are the songs we're going to play, and they're the parts. I'll see you in the dressing room for a drink, you know. We're all professional musicians and we can do that. Being in the studio, trying to create something from scratch, you don't know how that's going to work, you know, because some musicians are different animals in the studio than they are on stage. You know, there's a lot of bluff, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. You're kind of performing on stage. When you're in the studio, you kind of got to look each other in the eye and say, I'm not having that, that's shit, oh, that's great, you know. So that was, I used the word difficult, but it wasn't like a struggle, but it was kind of, fucking hell, is this going to work? Are we going to be able to make a record together? And it became obvious in about 20 minutes it was going to be great. You know, we'd be speaking to Alan and he'd be saying everything's all right, but then we'd be talking to Marcus, our manager, and he'd be saying it's not all right, you know. And then, unbeknown to us, Bonehead and Guigsy were plotting to leave, and we were all kind of going our separate ways, really. I suppose to make you understand fully, you would have to understand the mindset. And nobody gave a fuck. Not in an half-arsed kind of way. But you know, when you're on the way up like that, right, it's the most vital thing in your life. But you know, there comes a point where you just can't be asked. Because maybe you've had a bit too much success. But you know, and it's not, I don't think, like I say, there's about 6 or 7 great pieces of music on that. That kind of speaks for itself, and I stand by every single word of those lyrics. They're fantastic. You only get paid a year after you start, you see. So about a year after Morning Glory coming out is when the money started to come in. And that's when the fun started. Because then you got to try and get rid of it before the taxman gets it off you. And they were kind of, that's when, in my opinion, that's when everybody gloriously, and I use that word in capital letters, gloriously lost the plot completely. You know, it just get me a limo now kind of thing. After Nebworth, we should have gone away and let the myth of the band build up for a few years. Because we tried to combine making another record and going out on tour with having the best times of our lives, and you can only do one or the other. But we tried to do it all at the same time. And inevitably what suffers is the music, I think, because you tend to devote less time to it and more time to, you know, shall I buy that chandelier? Could I sleep in that chandelier? I don't know, if I get a step ladder big enough, I could kip in there. That kind of thing. But that's great. You know, but the music suffered.